in my life. Let's do it. All right.
Okay.
Go for it.
So this is Anna Chippa, like you eat a chip and not zoop zoop zoopy or chips ahoy. And this is Anna at Summer Solstice Coach, SOULSTICE. And my advice, just stay up, wake up, and vibe.
I love it. You didn't say vroom vroom veer and you didn't say with Jeff Smith, but that's okay.
Oh,
don't worry about it.
I can redo it. Do you want me to
want to
do
it again?
Let's do it again.
Okay.
And you said name, quote,
URL,
website.
Yeah. And
yes.
You're listening to
Vroom Vroom here with Jeff Smith.
See,
Jeff
you're ready.
Smith.
You're ready. You can say my name. Yes.
I'm like,
and you're always working. You're working your hair. I like it.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Awesome. All right. This is Anna Chippa, like you eat a chip and I am with Summer Solstice Coach, SOULSTICE. And you're listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeffrey Smith. And my advice, wake up, chill out, and vibe.
Love it.
There we go.
Perfect. I love it. All right, let me hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Katrina Foe, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So you are at nutritionalpilates.com. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your business today.
Well, with my Cancer Freedom Program, we are looking to expand and I'm working currently on a group program.
Sweet.
So that we can make this more available to everyone. And I'm also looking for the next location and coordinating my next retreat because we need a bigger facility. It was a huge hit and I'm super excited to do it again.
Wow. How many did you have the first time or the last time?
It's a very small retreat. We had 8 people.
Okay.
And so we're looking to expand a little from that. But the trick is that most retreat facilities don't let you have the kitchen if you have a large group. And one of the key things is that we want every class to be a cooking class. So you really get to learn how to apply and do everything when you go home.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Venues with kitchens.
Yeah. So call me if you know of any. Good one.
Remind me, I have an idea. Depends on where you're at, though.
Okay.
If it can be nationwide, this one's got it's got issues that might make it not work, but you never know. Yeah. So anyway. Okay. But anyway, ask me later.
I will.
Okay. So this is Vroom Vroom Veer. That's awesome. And thanks for doing all that stuff. We had a little pre-show chat, so I want to find one of those retreats and put it on my annual or maybe biannual or however often I need to do it. Yeah. One of those, I want to kill all the cancer in my body in a month or a week or however long it takes. I don't know. But anyway, before we do that, this is Vroom Vroom Veer. So that means we have to go back in time and talk about Katrina when you were like young and impressionable and before you had cancer and all the bad things and then all the good things after that. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think you may be my first Arizona native. That's
there you go. There's not many of us.
Yeah. So, okay. What was growing up in Scottsdale like? You get tired of people telling you live in Phoenix?
What? No. I mean, Scottsdale's subtly different. It's a little, it's a very nice area.
Right.
It's really hot though.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Our brick and mortar is still there, but my family moved up to Idaho because it's really hot in Scottsdale.
Yes, it is.
Especially right now.
Yes, it is. So I actually had spent a lot of time in Phoenix way back when, like in the early days of podcasting. So, and the only way people could get you to go to Phoenix was to say, yes, it's in Phoenix and yes, it's in June, but we're having a pool party. And that made it kind of okay.
Yeah. The joke is that even the homeless have a pool in Phoenix.
Yeah. And saltwater pools. So what is the deal with saltwater pools? Is that so it doesn't evaporate as fast or something?
I would think for most people that's a way of getting away from the chlorine because it's super toxic for people.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
The salt is good for the skin. Some people have ozone pools, but the salt is preferred.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess like it's either you're going to have salt or chlorine. Chlorine, not so good. Okay, got it. Okay.
No.
Okay. So what's it like growing up in Scottsdale? What were you like in high school? I know you hate that question, but like,
yeah.
So you don't have to be super specific and get weird, but like, were you like a preppy or like a academic?
I was in the A-track academic stuff, so kind of a nerd in that way.
Okay.
But I was a dancer, so I was on the palm line. So
oh, wow.
Kind of a weird combo. I didn't really fit in either world super well. But,
okay.
Yeah.
But still, that sounds like you're kind of like on an overachiever kind of type A track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and I think in the fields that I'm in, the perfectionists tend to go there and be drawn there. So it kind of works.
No, I get it. You know, most people guest wise are type A overachievers. Just sort of like makes sense. I'm not. All the good things that happened to me was because some supervisor in the Air Force was making me do shit I didn't want to do. So, and thank you. I needed that kick in the ass. Anyway, so, okay. So did you go to college after high school?
Yeah, okay. I went to Texas Christian over in Fort Worth, and I had a BFA in modern dance and kinesiology. And then that's actually where I got introduced to Pilates and got certified while I was still in college.
Holy cow.
It was a huge blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a big deal because like I've met a couple of professional dancers. That's really, really tough gig.
I have to say though, I'm not that good a dancer. I really love movement though. And I enjoy the dance, and I was pre-physical therapy while I was there. And I was going to go to physical therapy school, but then I had my own issues with back pain, and the physical therapy really wasn't doing anything.
Right.
And that's when I discovered Pilates. And because of the way Pilates looks at the entire body versus insurance is shackling the physical therapist to just look at the one part that has the injury that's diagnosable. I realized that early on, which was huge. I mean, completely changed the trajectory of my career. Because most of what I do with the Pilates is more of a post-rehab. It's not general fitness stuff.
Right.
And that's how I got it.
After injury recovery, you can come in and do manual therapy and things like that.
Yeah, and we don't do any manual therapy. It's all verbal. But we have NFL players at our studio all the way through to clients that are in wheelchairs. But usually they have some specific issue. They're not just looking for a workout kind of thing.
Right. Okay. So it's more like a return to function kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Optimize.
So
yes.
I went through something similar. So I have a couple of comments. So I saw an amazing TED Talk about people who are dancers, right? And he sort of commented like, okay, that rambunctious child in British school that refuses to sit down and look straight, right? They have to move to think, right? It's a brain type almost is what he was trying to get at. So I would imagine that might apply to someone like you, right? You move a lot And
you would think, and that totally makes sense. And I've heard that and seen that. I actually can hold still very easily, to where I've had comment on that. So I'm not sure. I'm a little quirky, I guess. I'm not sure.
You're not a cookie cutter.
No.
It's just an idea. Yeah. But the other thing was that I totally agree, because I went and did massage school. And then I did like this thing called neuromuscular therapy. So it's kind of like taking, have you ever heard of, what are those big red books? There was a doctor, I can't remember her name now. But anyway, it'll come to me as I don't try to think of it. So she was the physician. So she was an MD, and she worked for JFK. You know, JFK had all those back problems. So she was his MD. But in her spare time, she wrote these gigantic volumes mapping out trigger points. So she's like the mother writer of trigger point therapy. So the school took those books and then added a bunch of stuff to it and came up with this program. But yeah, it was like all these philosophies that came out of that was like, you know, muscle and soft tissue is like an orphaned organ as far as the insurance and medical field goes.
Yeah, fascia's not cool yet. It's getting there.
Right. Right. So yeah, and I experienced that same thing because I had a shoulder injury when I was active duty, and they give you, you know, like how many physical therapist appointments, and it really is limited to injury recovery, right? So after the injury is, you quote unquote air quotes recovered, you're done.
Right. And the other,
you're not done, but they're done with you. Yes.
Yeah. And the tricky thing, like for me, I was having back pain,
right?
And they just said, oh, it's because of your scoliosis. But what happened was about 6 months into like treatment, I guess, my left ankle started hurting. And all of a sudden they stepped back and were like, oh, well, your left arch is collapsed and your right isn't. That's actually causing the twist in your pelvis, which is causing the scoliosis. And so when I started working, I was actually doing Pilates. There's a special apparatus called the foot corrector for the arches.
Oh, wow.
I got my left arch lifted and literally you can't see any scoliosis anymore. I've had 7 children, never had a lick of back pain since.
Wow.
So it was like completely missing the why do I have scoliosis and back pain? And not all scoliosis is, you know, shiftable and, you know, you can change it. Sometimes it's structural, but for me, it was a big deal. I mean, if I hadn't done anything else, I would have had back pain probably the rest of my life.
Right. Well, most people do after a certain age, right?
Which should not be the case if people are really getting good care. And I'm not talking about necessarily sessions that are covered with insurance. It's not going to be that. It's going to be more like you're saying, the optimizing and finding a really talented practitioner that can do the soft tissue work, that can do the muscle balancing work with some Pilates or something to really address what's going on. And a lot of this stuff is preventable that we just kind of live with, which is awful.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your health journey, and then as we go through these, we can compare notes, because at some point, like, you figured out you had to get off sugar. Me too, but let's not start there. Let's start with what you were doing before you got cancer, and then because that's a big deal. So that's how it makes a good story right there.
Yeah, the big C word, right?
Yes, so scary.
I had learned a little bit about health. I wouldn't, with the Pilates, I knew a lot of anatomy, but I wasn't really understanding diet at all. I thought I ate healthy. I really had no idea. Everyone thinks they ate healthy, right? But I had my first daughter, and when she was about 3, she was having a lot of pain in her teeth. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. I guess I'll take her to a pediatric dentist. And the guy took a look at her and he said, well, she needs 3 baby root canals and 8 fillings. I'm like, are you kidding? Does she even have that many teeth?
Right.
And he starts telling me I need to not feed her soda and candy bars. I'm like, oh, she has never had that. Never, ever. And he's looking at me like I'm a liar. And so I'm like, okay, thank you. We went and got like 4-second opinions, and everybody kind of said the same thing. I'm like,
Where's all the sugar coming from? Right.
Yeah, well, and I started digging in because there's a lot of discussion. It's not just eating sugar and the sugar on the outside of the teeth. There's a lot of interesting research by Dr. Weston Price that it's really more about digestion and what you eat that is going to influence this, which I thought was fascinating because I had really, really bad prenatal nutrition with her. In particular, I had hyperemesis gravidarum, and in the first month I lost 30 pounds. I had to be on medication just to like keep any food down. So she got the bad end of that stick.
Okay.
But so we started digging in, and we did a thing called the GAPS diet, gut and psychology syndrome. And within like the minute that we started, everything shifted for her. And
wow,
it was amazing because we were having like tooth abscesses and all this kind of stuff, and it all stopped. And so I was a really big believer. I'm like, holy cow, what just happened? I'm not even sure. Wow. But I'd already had this food as medicine experience, and we had, everything was from scratch, like really from scratch. And this was back in the day when
you're making your own ketchup, right?
No, seriously, we were making our own ketchup.
I get it.
We were totally making our own ketchup.
Right.
And we were making our own toiletries and cleaning products and like everything. To the point that we moved to Idaho to be out where we could raise our own animals, like chickens and
you're
and
all
cows.
in. You are all in.
Oh yeah, this is how I roll. I am like,
you're all in.
Yeah, do it all big yesterday.
Okay.
And that's when I got cancer.
Wow.
And
that doesn't make any sense. Wait a minute. That's when you get cancer. Okay.
We had moved up there and moved into our house about 8 months before. And I was pregnant with my 5th child, and I found a lump. I had a huge mastitis, and I did all the stuff I do, the moist heat and everything, and got it to go away. But then there was still a golf ball sized lump there. And I'm like, what the heck?
Oh, no.
And I found out it was cancer. And that was exactly what I was thinking, is like, I am doing all the right things. Like, I've taken this to a weird place. Like, people look at me like, you do what? You eat what?
Yeah.
And
it doesn't take much though to really. No.
This was a while ago
I had a job in 2017 and I was already addicted to green smoothies, right? So I was green smoothie every day, right? So I'm showing up with my green smoothie, right? And they think I am that earned me the label health nut. You're a health nut. You're drinking vegetables. You must be crazy. So I get it. Yes.
It's a thing. Yeah. And it just kind of made my head spin around because I'm like, everything I've learned, we're doing.
Right.
I don't take things halfway. And yet I got cancer. Like, clearly something I'm doing is not right. I need to put all the cards on the table.
But let me back that up though, because good for you, just because like as soon as you get to cancer, you don't blame anybody but you. That's huge. And you shouldn't. It's not your fault necessarily. I'm not saying you deserve blame, but you went, okay, all right, I am responsible for some behavior, right?
Yeah.
That's making this happen. That's a huge insight that you get the diagnosis. You don't like go, oh, damn it. Why me? No, you go, okay, I got to take care of this shit.
Exactly. What do I need to do? Because I don't want to have this, and I don't want my kids to have it. And am I doing something? Are we eating something? Like, what's going on? And everything back then, this was like 10 years ago. They're talking about raw vegan. And I'm like, really? Because I don't really, from what I've learned, that's not the best idea. And so I head down to a Gerson clinic, which is a raw vegan style of cancer treatment down in Mexico.
Right.
And I had a lot of questions. I'd read all their stuff, and it was
lots of carrot juice. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like 7 juices a day.
Yeah.
And enemas and all sorts of stuff.
Oh my goodness.
And so I'm asking the staff, they're like, okay, well, why can't I eat any salt? And, salt's an important nutrient. And why can't I have any fat? And why am I on a thyroid, glandular when you haven't tested my thyroid? And, all these things. And they had no answers. And I was getting a little frustrated.
They just didn't answer.
So,
They were just like, "Oh, this is the protocol or something."
they'd like refer me back to the books. I'm like, okay, well, I've read the books and it wasn't in there.
Right.
And I'm asking you. And
They
so
don't have an
after the
answer.
first
Okay.
day, no, they had no answer. The director of the program sat me down. He's like, Katrina, you've been asking my staff a lot of questions, and you really just need to trust in the process.
No.
And I'm like,
no.
questions and you don't have answers. This is like, I have cancer. Usually people, often die from this. It's kind of a big deal.
Right.
Why would I trust you if you don't have answers?
Right.
So he told me politely that if I didn't have, trust and faith in the process, that I needed to leave.
So you left.
And yeah, I got kicked out of the cancer clinic. So,
but good for you. You just saved me one thing on my checklist of what to do if I get cancer. My first thought was go to Mexico, and don't do that. Okay, good to know.
No. I mean, there's lots of different places in Mexico, but
that particular clinic is no.
I was in a free fall then because it was crap. Like, what do I do now? I have no idea.
So what is insurance telling you at this point? Is insurance telling you that they can do things or not?
I'm sure my insurance would have covered chemo
and radiation, right?
All that stuff.
Right.
I at that point knew from the teeth experience that food can cure, and I didn't want what oncology was selling.
Okay.
So my insurance was not really insurance because we're self-employed. I have something called Samaritan Ministries. And they actually ended up paying for all my alternative stuff.
Wow.
Which was amazing and
Holy cow.
Unusual. Yeah, they're the only one that I've ever heard of that will cover stuff functionally. Okay. But we haven't gotten to that part. You're jumping ahead.
Sorry, my bad. It's okay.
So I did a lot of research while I did some more juicing and such, and found a functional practitioner, which back then functional wasn't like the cool hip thing like it is kind of now.
Right.
And we started doing some tests, and I was really excited because she was looking to answer the questions that I was asking. Like, what is the right diet for me? Why did I get this? Like, what's going on with me? And the tests were showing some really interesting things. So I had thought that I was doing the right things, but I had never tested anything to see if what I was eating was actually getting in me and making a difference.
Okay.
And when we got some of those tests back, there's lots of tests, I was shocked. Like, I had a lot of stuff going on and I had no idea. I had no symptoms. I mean, I had like some things that I was attributing to postpartum, like, some weight, some brain fog, some fatigue, but nothing like big. And
just seemed like a normal kind of postpartum sort of situation.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. Nothing super weird. And so this was really interesting to me. And I've learned since then that not everyone shows symptoms as clearly as others. And my body doesn't yell at me. It whispers so quietly that I have to really listen and turn the hearing aid on that.
Yeah.
And usually I notice things neurologically. I don't notice them, digestively or, typical symptoms that people have.
Okay.
So we started addressing everything, and this process was weird. It was a lot of supplements, a lot of diet changes, a lot of like coffee enemas, infrared saunas, all this kind of stuff.
Wow. Interesting.
And it was amazing. And the whole process led me into where I wanted to understand like what in the world had just happened. So I went back to school and became a nutritionist, and then went through 2 years of functional lab training, and then went through a certification for integrative oncology through Dr. Naisha Winters, which was amazing. And I never at the beginning intended to actually work as, a nutritionist. But as I got started, the information I was learning was shocking. And it was stuff that needed to be out there, and I just couldn't be quiet about it. And then one thing led to another, and I realized how much fun I was having working with clients and how much I wanted to do more of that. So it's grown into a business where I work with clients virtually all over all over the world, but primarily in the US.
Right. Wow. If you need water, go ahead and get some water. You're good? So I have more questions. So that first, did you have more than one bout with cancer?
No, just the one.
Just the one. Okay. So, all right. So basically this dietary solution worked, apparently, right?
It was not just diet. It was
moving.
It was a lot of supplements. It was looking at things like, for me, I was very estrogen dominant. So addressing and getting that, my sex hormones in balance.
Okay.
My thyroid is just like super sluggish. We had to kick him around.
Okay.
I was super low in vitamin D.
A lot of people are super low in vitamin D.
Yeah. I had never tested, but I've been taking it for years.
Okay.
My husband and I had been having a lot of marital difficulty, a lot of depression and issues there. So the emotional aspect. The kingpin was that it turned out the house that we had moved into had black mold that was carcinogenic.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Okay, so I can relate to black mold. I got exposed to black mold. Dumb story, but I know all those symptoms and they're gross.
Well, and I honestly didn't have those symptoms. I just
really?
got cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you had the particular black mold was cancer causing.
Yeah.
So you didn't get any of the typical like joint pain, lethargy, all of that stuff? No. Wow.
Well, I had the lethargy, but I was, chopped, but that could have been like
a million different things.
I also had a lot of insulin resistance.
Okay.
It could have been the blood sugar. It could have been the thyroid. And I've since seen, because I run a mold panel on all my clients, like it's not up for debate.
Good idea.
I've seen several people that have had mold that didn't have any symptoms, including my sister, which was interesting. So there's a lot of people out there with mold that may not know it, and it's how well your body can handle it. We also did genetic testing, and I've got some sucky detox pathways and blood sugar handling issues and methylation issues. So,
wow. Everybody's different.
It's not great.
Yeah. Everybody's different, right? So in the future, hopefully, you're the future. Your cancer treatment will be for you.
Well, and that's the thing. I get people asking me all the time, like, oh, how long since you had a scan? How are you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. I don't get scans because I'm watching my functional testing, and I know when something's off way before I have a huge perfect storm big enough to allow a tumor to form that would be actually in a scan.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait until you can see it on a scan. That's way too long.
Concur. So let's talk about like some of these things like on your one sheet. So because I love all of these and I want to know the answers. And we're kind of getting like we're already halfway done. So if we go over and you got to quit, just say I got to quit and we'll quit.
I'm good.
Okay, good. So how can people find out why they had cancer? What a great question.
Yeah, this is the thing that no one's asking in traditional oncology. They're just focused on the tumor. It's very tumor centric. Let's kill the tumor. Let's shrink the tumor. And the way I look at it, the tumor is not the problem. The tumor is a symptom of all the problems. And if you just focus on the tumor, you can maybe make the tumor go away, but it will come back. Maybe after 5 years, so you get the official I was cured thing, but who cares about that besides statistics? It's really about like quality of life. And do you want that hanging over your head? Is it going to come back? I want to know that it's not. Right. So my mentor, Dr. Naisha Winters, wrote a book called The Metabolic Approach to Cancer, where she identifies 10 different terrain areas. And these are what we test for. So I test all my clients for all these different areas to see what, are their areas. So these are areas, I'll just go through them real quick: metabolic, hormonal, microbiome, angiogenesis, stress, environmental toxins, epigenetics, immune, inflammation, and mental emotional. So these are all things. There's 10 of them. Yeah. These are all things that are shown in the research to drive cancer. And there's different tests that we can do for each one. And sometimes you see different things in multiple tests from these areas. But when we see them, then we want to then address them. And I'll give you the magic. This is the problem that most people get hung up on. It is not one thing.
It's never one thing. It's never one thing.
And this is what most people, they're looking.
I can tell the exasperation that you just want to smack your face.
Yeah. Well, this is
it's never one thing. Right.
One thing. Let's get a pill to do one thing. Yeah. And the clients are all, let's find the magic bullet. Let's find that one supplement, that one food.
Wouldn't that be great? Doesn't work that way. Right.
No, it totally doesn't work that way. It's different for everybody. So usually with cancer, it's going to be like 6 or 8 things.
Wow.
And this is
of those 10, it's going to be 6 or 8. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, like I mentioned, metabolic was one, hormonal was one. My microbiome was messed up. Environmental toxins was huge. The mental emotional was big. Epigenetics was big. So, I mean, there's 6 right there.
Wow.
So everybody is different in how it presents, what things in those terrains are specifically an issue and which terrains. And that way, it's different for everybody. You have a bio-individual approach. And you then know, like I mentioned, what areas you need to keep your eye on. I know that I need to watch my hormones. I actually just did a Dutch test to check them again recently because I was having little symptoms, and they're perfect. They're awesome.
But that's good. It's good that you checked. Right.
All I have to do is
at least and it's going to help that stress one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and
yes,
I'm testing my hormones at the very, very beginning of the niggliest symptom.
Right.
That is not even an issue. We're not testing like once a tumor has been there for a while. That's
too late.
Not what I'm looking.
Too late.
Exactly.
Too late. So, okay.
Not necessarily too late, but later than I would like to start thinking.
Too late for Katrina.
Yeah.
I concur. Too late for Jeff too. So let's do what kind of diet should most people be on if they have cancer? Because it's on there. Yeah. So that sounds like a good question.
Yeah. So the diet and this is not one size fits all, but the diet that you want for cancer is a ketogenic diet.
I've heard
we
this.
We want to starve the cancer and we want to utilize those ketones to heal.
Right.
Now, sometimes people get a little anxious just hearing that.
Right.
Because
keto sounds hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound hard, but usually it has to do with being a little addicted to carbs. And that was me. I kind of freaked out. I remember.
We're all addicted to carbs.
Yeah. I told my practitioner, I'm like, no, that's scary. That's dangerous. You can't cut out a whole food, group.
Right.
And, what I've learned is that there are no essential carbohydrates.
Correct.
So there's literally, like there's essential amino acids. We've heard of that. Those the building blocks for the proteins.
Right.
There's essential fatty acids, there's omega-3s, omega-6s. These are the things that your body can't make itself, and you have to eat it.
Right.
There's no essential carbohydrates. There's nothing in a carbohydrate that you can't make yourself.
Interesting. Good to know.
Now, with that, there are some powerful food plant things that I like to still have my clients have. So this is not a low vegetable diet. I want lots of vegetables because I want the fiber. Mm-hmm. And I hear that well because all those people juicing for cancer are throwing the best part away, the fiber.
Right.
Yeah. That's been shown to be the most important thing to creating a great microbiome is to feed them the fiber.
Right. And so like smoothies, not juices.
Yes, exactly.
I got rid of my juicer and got a really nice blender. But
yay, I love it.
But I'll say this: if you got to start somewhere, juicing's fun.
No, juicing is not good. Sorry.
Okay.
No, the thing with juicing is not only you're taking the fiber out, which is good for the microbiome, but that fiber is slowing down the bomb of sugar that's going to your bloodstream.
Yeah.
And if people have cancer, I don't think I've seen anybody yet that didn't have blood sugar issues, period.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You could be the outlier, but the thing is with blood sugar issues, you don't feel bad. You have a boatload of sugar running around. You feel good.
That's true.
So until you see the testing, people don't believe me.
Right.
And that's what we want to get under control for cancer and such is one of the primary things.
So what would your carbs look like in this keto diet? Are they like broccoli, cauliflower? Go through some of the good ones that people actually might want to eat.
Those cruciferous vegetables and the low carb vegetables have lots of phytonutrients with compounds that are known to fight cancer. Now, you're not going to be able to get enough to turn cancer around just from eating lots of broccoli. You'd have to eat insane amounts of broccoli.
Right.
But that's what you want to focus on. They're low carb. They're super nutrient dense. So I tell my clients that your plate should look like a boatload of vegetables, a little bit of really clean meat, and then it's covered in sauce. So the fat is what takes up like no room on the plate, but has the majority of the calories and is going to give you energy and the fuel.
Okay. And that's for those ketones, because ketones come from fat.
Yeah, the ketones your body actually makes
those, right?
So you're not. Well, I mean, you can have
exogenous
oil.
Right.
I don't usually focus on that with clients, especially at the beginning. I focus on them getting into ketosis without that, so I know that their body metabolically in the Krebs cycle is actually doing what it needs to be doing. And then with cancer, not only do you want to get into a nutritional ketosis, which is kind of like 0.5, 0.7 up to like 2 something.
Right.
But I want them to get into a therapeutic. And so that's like another level, like over 3, where it's going to take a little more work. And that's where the exogenous ketones should come into play.
So let's talk about the why of keto, because I love it. And you're an expert, and I just, I'll be quiet now.
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes back to like, I think it's the 30s, and Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize for defining what actually constitutes a cancer cell. And so in the mitochondria, he showed that there's a switch for how they burn and create energy, so that instead of going through, oxygen and using fats and a variety of different things, it turns into an anaerobic, so non-oxygen, and actually happens in a different place. It's in the cytosine, and it creates, it's very inefficient. It creates a lot of acid, which is where you get people talking about like, you shouldn't, you want to be more alkaline, because the cancer cell will be floating in like a sea of acid that it is producing. It has nothing to do with what the person's eating. It's a really common misconception.
Interesting.
But you need a lot more sugar. So it's like glucose. Give me glucose all day long. I want glucose. So
cancer cells eat sugar.
They need a lot of it.
They need a lot of sugar.
So inefficient. In order for them to grow and proliferate, they need a lot of sugar. And by sugar, I'm talking blood sugar, which is any carbohydrates.
Right. Glucose. Everything anything the body you consume can be broken down into glucose, right? Unless it's even fat, right? Even fat can turn into sugar if you already have enough fat. Right. So that. Yes.
Exactly. Gluconeogenesis, a nice big A+ word there.
Say that again. Say that. What?
Gluconeogenesis. That's when your body can break down like proteins or fats and turn it into glucose.
Right.
And the reason it does that is if your blood sugar gets really low. Okay. It's not going to do that if your blood sugar is between 70 and 90. Your blood sugar is fabulous and your body's fine. But if it starts to dip down, like if you fast or something, it can counter that and bring it back up. And this is why you don't need carbohydrates, because you can go, I think the world record, I don't remember the guy's name, was over like a year. He went without eating a single thing, because he was like massive, like 400 pounds or something. And he literally just ate off of his pantry of fat that he had on him.
Wow. So he's got to be eating protein though.
No, he ate nothing.
He ate nothing but fat.
He took some multivitamins, I think, and he drank water, and that was it.
Wow.
Crazy, right? Now, I don't think most of us can do that. We don't have that much storage, even if we think we're fat or are fat. Like, it's usually not that much. But the idea that we can just
sunshine, vitamins, water, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Fresh air, yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's see. I'm going to pick out another question.
Well, I'll just finish that thought. So the cells, the cancer cells, need that blood sugar so much that they will actually create their own extra blood supply. So they will create more blood vessels coming to them, which is a angioneogenesis. There's another fancy word for you. But you just think like they need more. So they need more people bringing it to them, like, any kind of addict. They need more sources.
Right.
And that's where we want to try to monitor. If you don't have the high blood sugar and you slow down the angiogenesis, what are you doing? You're starving the cancer. It doesn't have its raw materials to then grow out of control and proliferate.
Right. So basically, yeah, well, as you sum up, so standard American diet feeds cancer.
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, and the standard American diet not only has the high carbohydrate load, which we're talking, so just to give the audience some reference, with a ketogenic diet, we're usually talking like 20 to 30 grams of carbs a day. And that's from, preferably the low carb veggies. Standard American diet is usually 200 or 300 grams of carbs a day.
Right. Like a baked potato. Right.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
Bread, sandwich.
There's a huge difference there. And the other problem with the standard American diet is that the fats they do eat are usually the processed, rancid, bleached, oxidized fats in things like the vegetable oils. Because every processed food, every restaurant, they all use all these terrible fats because it's more cost effective.
And they have shelf life, more like half-life. Yes.
Yeah, the thing is, those are super shelf stable because
they're filled with preservatives, and antibiotics.
Well, they bleach it, they deodorize it. If you look up online, it is pretty scary what they've done, but they make it so it's like nothing. It doesn't taste or smell like anything, but it's already rancid. They've just made it so you can't tell with your nose that it's rancid.
Wow.
And those are huge inflammatory drivers.
Right. Do you remember watching that movie? It's a documentary about the guy eating McDonald's. Super Size Me.
Yes.
and he was, and that they put like a Big Mac or something under a little glass jar or whatever, right? And then an ordinary burger, right, from like a mom and pop, it was full of mold within like a couple of days, and that Big Mac looked just fine.
Yeah, it's really creepy. But see, that's the issue. And here's the problem. A lot of the vegetarians and vegans, plant-based stuff, they throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I would 100% agree with them that thing that was under the glass, I wouldn't even call it a hamburger,
is not
that's
food.
not good. And
it's
that will
food.
cause cancer.
Right.
Not the meat. It's what kind of meat is it? Because like I said, we're really into quality. We raise our own cows. I literally have my own beef, and I know what those cows eat, and it is not what they're feeding on those CAFO farm lots.
Right.
My cows eat only grass, period.
Right.
There's no antibiotics. There's no hormones. They're not fed grain, nothing.
And they're happy cows. They're happy cows.
They're super happy. They get kids petting them.
Yeah.
And we butcher them at the proper time. So we butcher them after the fast-growing grass of the spring slows down at the beginning of the summer, so that they have the peak of omega-3s in their fat. So it's the most nutritious.
And they had a super life and one bad day. Not so bad.
Exactly, Bill Salzman. Love it.
So
very much.
What are the most common drivers of cancer outside, say, maybe diet? Because we really covered that. But I mean, that's okay. Overlap is good.
Yeah. So there's those 10 different areas.
Right.
And probably what I see the most is the environmental toxins.
Okay.
So
see, now this is something I've never even thought about. Hit me.
This is what people don't see coming.
I know.
This is what I didn't see coming. This is where it hit me broadside. I did not have any idea. I thought I was getting a lot of toxins out. I wasn't using commercial makeup or cleaning products and stuff. But there's a lot of other ways. People don't check their water very often. People don't look at some of these things, for heavy metals, the amalgams in their teeth and such.
Yep.
The biggest one I see, I have only had one client ever that didn't have mold.
Wow.
That's huge.
One client that didn't have mold. One.
And I'm still kind of surprised that she didn't.
You're kind of questioning the output of that test.
I know. Right? That's how ubiquitous it is nowadays. But there's so many different toxins. I have seen so many weird things. I have a panel that I run with my clients of non-metal toxins. Things like BPA, benzene, different chemicals that are in our products.
In your carpet and exactly. Right.
And I've had so many clients come back with weird stuff. Now, those chemicals usually get out of our system in a couple days. But if they're showing up on a test, that means that they are being exposed to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, I had a client, she showed up with crazy high levels of benzene. And that is like a chemical that's in like.
Yeah. You need some house plants. You need house plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
she lives out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're talking, there's no flight patterns with gas exhaust coming down on her. There's not near any highways. There's no like off-gassing chemicals in her environment. We were like totally stumped. And a few weeks or so after we got this test back, we're still scratching our heads. We tested her water. There was nothing there. And it turns out her tailpipe fell off. And she took it into her mechanic. And I'm not a car mechanic, but he said that somehow the pipe that goes up into her, attach onto everything, had holes in it that were pushing the exhaust into her cabin of her car.
Oh my God.
I know, but it wasn't enough for her to smell it. Either that or her sniffer wasn't so good.
So she's getting killed slowly, basically.
Yeah, and she drove every day. So it was pretty big for us to find.
That's a huge amount of... Wow.
But these are the weird things that people don't see happening in their life unless we start testing the weird, obscure things. There's no way she...
that one thing that strikes me as I'm like, I was in the military way too long, right? So like you just sort of like grin and bear everything, right? You're just like, I'm okay. Leave me alone, Sarge. After that, then I realized just how much screening doesn't happen, right? You would hope I'm paying for insurance and there's like no cancer screening. I'm sorry. There's 2 cancer screens, right? On an ordinary insurance kind of thing. Like they'll give you a colonoscopy and they'll tell you you've got an enlarged prostate. This is dude side, right? I think that's it. I mean, maybe they're looking at my blood, but as far as I know, they're not looking for cancer in my blood. Does that make sense? Well, you know more about it than me, but just...
Okay, so here's the thing. This is sick care, not health care.
Correct.
If people want to have the experience where they don't have cancer, look at where you want your life to go, when you're 80, you have to do this. This is not us relying on insurance to take care of us because that will not happen.
Right.
And people need to wake up to that fact.
Maybe someday, but not while we're alive.
Right. Blood work, they will run a CBC and a metabolic panel and rarely anything else. And those 2 panels alone might cost $10. I'm pushing it. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of markers and people are like, oh, my doctor runs lots of tests. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is nothing. This is not any of the good markers at all.
Right.
And it's insane and ridiculous. They're not looking at anything that, that they can really see in there a substantial effect in terms of cancer. The important markers are not on there. And this is the problem. I have found with so breast cancer is, one of the biggest things. People come into me for that all the time. And we know, most people are familiar with the idea that there's some hormone components to driving cancer with breast cancer. You know how many times I've had a doctor run a client's hormones?
0.
Yep. Mm-hmm. 0. Never.
Sorry. Not shocked.
Testing the tumor, but they're not testing the clients. And it just drives me insane because I've had clients come with they're on hormone replacement therapy. No one has tested their hormones ever. And they get cancer and the cancer doctor doesn't even check to see if their hormones are off. And they're still on the hormone replacement therapy while they're getting their lumpectomy and stuff. And I'm like, this is insanity. How is this not malpractice? It's crazy.
It's disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have about 5 more minutes. So before we forget, let's say your website again. Your nutritionalpilates.com for now. Maybe someday that might change, but I'm sure. Yeah. And someday, maybe in the future, that might change. But this has been a blast. Please come back and let's do more of this because this is great. And we have to come up with something that I can go to because I want to go do some sort of, retreat that I can do. So if you find one, email me one. Yeah.
You can totally do a guy one. It's just,
yeah, I get it. No, target market branding, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying tomorrow. Just keep me in mind. Guys want help too.
Absolutely. I will keep that in mind.
Katrina, this has been a blast. Thanks for hanging out with me. And wow, now I really have to get into keto. Maybe I'll just go try to do it myself. I don't have a job now, so it should be, less stressful.
There you go. Well, connect with me because I do have some online courses.
Oh, sweet.
The group program I mentioned is going to have an online DIY component to it. And that should be out by the end of the year. But I do have some other ones already.
Awesome. Cool. So glad to meet you. You, of all guests, you might save my life.
There you go.
And mine. Everybody else too. So thank you.
And hopefully you won't need it, right?
Well, no, it's better not to get cancer. So when's the best day to start working on that? I would say, 10 years ago, but I can't go back in time. So today will work.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
All right. You have a good one. Thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.